Probal Sen, energy analyst at ICICI Securities, joins in to quickly take us through what his expectations are. Probal, big numbers expected from Reliance Industries. The toy-to-telecom conglomerate will report after market closes. If you can break it down for us, what is the expectation?
Yeah, hi, good morning everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, on a YOY basis, I think the results are likely to be fairly strong. We expect around a 19% YOY improvement in revenue, a 14% improvement in EBITDA, and about 8% improvement YOY in profit. Sequentially, however, the numbers do appear a little tad weaker, primarily because the OTC segment earnings are expected to decline a bit on a sequential basis because, petrochemical margins continue to be a bit muted and refining margins have also come off a little bit on a QOQ basis. However, what is of note is that upstream continues to perhaps surprise. Despite the fact that premium gas prices have been reduced, our expectation is that stronger production would actually drive, a stronger sequential as well as a YOY performance from the upstream segment. Retail continues to build on the momentum that, has been there for the last several quarters. Again, on a sequential basis, perhaps not as much, but on a YOY basis, the results of the retail segment will also be fairly, strong. So, and in terms of triggers, I think announcements on any progress on new energy, I think the chairman had announced some timelines in the latest, Gujarat Industrial Summit, where he talked about the timelines for commissioning of the first two plants in the new energy segment. So any updates on that front, as well as, any other, news as far as upstream is concerned, and of course the outlook on OTC. Those will be the ones to look forward to in this quarter.
Right, Prabhat, let's start by taking this apart, and perhaps if you could give me your view on the telecom segment and telecom business, what are you penciling in?
Yeah, so telecom, I think our telecom analyst is penciling in a flattish kind of an ARPU, with subscriber run rate probably closer to the run rate that they did last quarter, which is about 9 to 10 million subscribers. I think ARPU is expected to grow only by about a 1% or so. I think in telecom, from what I understand, the basically key trigger going forward is when does the monetization of the 5G subscriber base start to happen in a big way, and also when does the enterprise and the FTTH segment, which has consumed a lot of the capex at least in the last 1 year alongside 5G, when does actually that start, reflecting in the numbers? As of now, I think it is probably still a few quarters away. From what we understand, I think the company has guided to a gradual sort of build-up of the FTTH enterprise and the fiber-to-home ventures. So, those basically are the ones that should actually drive ARPU improvement on a blended basis. We do not have much clarity in terms of when and if the tariff hike that a lot of people have been expecting is actually coming. So that's also something that, there have been reports that it could come as early as the fourth quarter. Again, there are some news that it could come probably not before the next financial year. But I think the tariff hike as well as the monetization of 5G and enterprise, I think those are the three things one has to look forward to this quarter. From a numbers perspective, I think there's around a 2.5% improvement sequentially in EBITDA. That I think one is penciling in at about 14,000 crores. So that's where the segment lies.
Probal, do you think Reliance Retail could steal the show in this report card? I mean, I believe the expectations are quite high on margins and top line.
I think on margins, they have actually been beating the street pretty much on the last couple of quarters. So yes, we would expect 7.5% plus kind of EBITDA margins, including the portion of other income that they show in the retail segment. But yes, I mean, on retail front, there is always a possibility of surprises. I would still believe that where the street is at, there is probably a possibility of a marginal upside coming through from there. I wouldn't, with a high probability on a huge beat on either of these segments.
Very quickly, Probal, what are you expecting in terms of clarity? I believe the 75,000 crore announcement in the new energy business is something that participants will be watching out for. Additions in retail stores, any pricing activity, is that something you'd be looking out for? And also any risk to its earnings in this quarter, any sort of disappointment that could boomerang for RIL?
Honestly, I think the only disappointment that could come is if there is more of weakness in the petrochemical segment that would be factoring in, or if there is any adverse inventory impact in the refining margins. Again, as I said, the street tends to pencil in these movements fairly accurately. So against the 16,000 crore EBITDA that was there last quarter, I think the street is at somewhere around 13,500 to 14,000 crore or so. But I think the chance of disappointment probably could be there in terms of OPC segment, where it's pretty difficult to probably pencil in exact number on refining and petchem since the company doesn't really disclose it separately anymore. So it's always a little bit of a hit and miss now in terms of trying to predict it. Other than that, I would think no. And as far as the new energy business is concerned, what we have really seen is that with respect to big business announcements or major business announcements, it's typically the chairman himself who comes on the AGM and makes the announcement in terms of timelines and big broad plans in terms of launch. So that could be there. The other thing that I forgot to mention, my apologies, is that any update in terms of the expected merger or any developments in front of what is happening with Disney Hotstar, I think those will be another trigger that people would be looking at if they announce anything on that front with this quarter.
Okay, right, Prabal, we leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your expectations on the consolidated numbers for Reliance Industries.